Right. So first, since this is our first one, and we plan to do more of these, maybe weekly, there may be a week or so we don't do it, but I think um, before we get to the question of the day, and the question that we're going to go through of the day is, what did we each of us do over summer vacation, and how is that relevant to our quest to become a member of the school board, and or how does it relate to the school board? So, but at first, it's probably just good for us to go around. So if you haven't met us, like just who we are, what, why, why we're running. So I'll kind of kick that off. So I'm Mark Boldazar. Um, I moved to Lancaster about 35 years ago when I graduated from St. Francis. I've been in township about 25 years. I have about 30 years of corporate experience, 5 years on my own as a consultant. So I've run a lot of large organizations, worldwide organizations. So I know a lot about, managing to limited resources and, making tough decisions, but using tools to make decisions, not it becoming emotional. So really, I have a lot of experience in that area. My background is as a scientist, so I think it kind of very structured thinking, and like to keep it to the facts, and to also be inclusive. And I'm really big on kind of improving things. And I'm really here because we have Julie and I had two daughters. Well, Julie's graduated Manheim Township, and we raised two daughters that came through Township who have been very successful. And a big part of that is the education they got in Township. And I'm really passionate about protecting that strength of the education that Manheim Township delivers. It has great teachers, great administrators. A lot of that is now under attack. So I'm just really passionate about kind of, just getting down to the boring business of the school board and just continuing to have Township be great and become even greater. So, Julie, I'll let you pick the next person to go, so someone's not mad at me for calling on them next if they're not ready.
Well, I'll go clockwise around my screen, which means Patrick is next.
Okay, thanks, Julie, and thanks, Mark. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Patrick Grenter, and I am also running for Manheim Township School Board Director. And I kind of have a similar, the thing I feel good about running with these four other incredible people is that we have a similar through line, many of us, in why we're here, right? Which helps us when we're trying to, do the work of campaigning and building a momentum and movement in order to win in November in what really feels like increasingly a pivotal election for the future of this town, and a pivotal election for the future of our schools. I've lived in Manheim Township since 2017. I'm not a native. I'm not born here. I'm not from here originally, but we chose here. We chose this place, right? I love Manheim Township. I look forward to living the rest of my life here. And I feel very fortunate to be really intimately tied with the public schools already. My wife is a teacher in the middle school, a 7th grade science teacher. And my son had his first day today, 3rd grade at Schaefer Elementary, and it was a great day. He said it was the best day ever. And my daughter, Avery, is starting at Landis Run in 5th grade. And she similarly had a wonderful day, which was quite a relief because she was pretty nervous moving into the new building and leaving Schaefer, which has just been a wonderful, wonderful place for my family. And so I'll go quickly into saying, I am an environmental attorney. I work with an organization called the Sierra Club, and I've been an environmental advocate for my entire career. The reason that I'm running is what I've said too, right? We chose this place in no small part because of the schools, and the schools have given so much back to my family already, and all that feels like it's up for, it's in question this November. Our opponents are not hiding who they are, right? They are saying it loud. They are two people from Moms for Liberty. They are, people who want to change the fundamental character of our schools in a way that's not consistent with the values of this town, not consistent with the values that the school district itself have espoused, and in a way that I think puts the ability of our children to be safe challenged, and nurtured in our schools at real risk. And we can talk a little more about what that is now and in months to come. But I, for now, will kick it over back to Julie and just appreciate many of you for joining us here tonight.
Thanks, Patrick. How about you, Terrence?
Terrence, we can't hear you.
We'll move on to Sarah for now.
All right, let's see if you can hear me. I'm getting a nod. Perfect. Hi, I'm Sarah Woodbury. Like Patrick, we moved here to Township. We moved here in 2018 because my husband and I were living in Palmyra, and we said, all right, we're about to have a school-age child. Where should we live? Where should we live for the next 15 years at least? And so we chose Manheim Township. My husband was born and raised in this area, although I hail from Ohio. Don't hold it against me. But my husband and I have both worked for Penn State Health for over 20 years, and I have a clinical background in psychiatric and hospital social work. So I know what it means to meet people where they are, to be a systems thinker and an advocate, and to really care about the whole person. And that's what I want our schools to keep doing. And that's what our opponents do not want our schools to keep doing. We want our schools to be for all the kids, not some of the kids, not most of the kids, but all of the kids. So my son and I have been talking a lot about my school board campaign. He likes to talk about it with me. He's not a rising fourth grader anymore. Today was the first day of fourth grade at Reidenbaugh, and he had an amazing day as expected. He's thrilled to be chosen to be a safety patrol, and we talked about how that means being kind and looking out for others and living into your leadership potential. So yes, of course, even I can make a life lesson out of getting that yellow belt. And my father was quick to say, tell him his grandfather was a safety patrol as well. So my family has a long tradition of loving reading, books, libraries, school, public school. So my father was on the school board when I was in high school. My grandmother went to college for library science and was a librarian in her own hometown for 25 years. So the fact that books themselves are under threat in 2023 is mind-boggling to me, but I am not sitting by. When I told my son I was talking about what I did this summer, he said, can you say you went to Rhode Island with your family? I said, sure, but I'm also going to talk about getting ready for the next season of book club and reading books and how many voters I talked to this summer. I knocked on a lot of doors this summer. I said, at one point I was knocking on more doors than anyone in the county. And my son said, really? And my husband said, your mom doesn't do anything halfway. So he said, you must really want to win. I said, I really want to serve on the board. So I think it speaks well of our town that we've got a full slate of people who are dying to serve. We really want to serve. And I keep saying it's very simple. It's about teachers, and it's about books, and it's about safety. We have to trust and support our teachers. We have to understand what governance means, and it means respecting the excellent people we have at Manheim Township, not usurping their authority. So I'll stop there, and I'm excited to see all of you and so appreciative of everyone's support and encouragement and interest.
Thanks, Sarah. Joanne?
I grew up actually in Lancaster. I'm a proud graduate of J.P. McCaskey. I always like to say that, but we've been living here in Manheim Township for 30 years. So we were very confident sending our daughter to Manheim Township High School, where she decided to come back and teach. So she is a teacher in the biology department. My background is in education. I taught for 35 years. I also served as a curriculum supervisor on the elementary level. My emphasis was social studies and science. I began attending I always attended board meetings in Eastern Lancaster County where I taught, but I began attending board meetings in Manheim Township when I realized that the much needed renovations to the high school, yes, I go back that far, the high school, not the middle school, had been voted down. The candidates who had run on a platform to modernize the high school had lost. And I started going to the meetings and listening to what I felt were poor decisions or not child-centered or education-centered decisions. So I began to listen, and the more I listened, the more I needed to speak. Anybody who knows me understands those two things go together. But eventually, then I also felt I needed to run and have a voice on the board and be able to bring my background and my experience to the board, which is what I hope I have done. And I hope I can continue to do. And thank you all for being virtually with us this evening. And I hope if you do have questions that we're able to answer them honestly and completely for you.
Thanks, Joanne. Terrence, see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. My name is Terrence Henderson. I am a 20-year resident of Manheim Township. I am originally a Baltimorean, so not too far from here. I was raised, my background is in medicine, but I always say that, but the biggest thing I bring to this to this great slate is as a parent, we all have our different perspectives and experiences. I grew up in Baltimore the child of a single parent, and times were hard, and education personally was my big bright spot. I was good at it, so I could use that to advance myself and open up opportunities for myself and my family, and that has worked pretty well, I'd say. Fast forward 30 years, and I am a general surgery resident at Harrisburg Hospital, and my wife is entering residency at Reading Hospital. So that's how we wound up in Lancaster. It was pretty much midway between the two. 2 kids later, we are the proud parents of a recent graduate and a freshman at Temple University, celebrating his second day of classes today, as well as my younger son, who's a junior in Township, celebrating his inaugural class of 11th grade. When we came here, I'd always valued education. So my proud accomplishment, besides being a dad who's there for his kid, was that we sent our kids to school reading. So from kindergarten, they were readers and very much above grade level. And I say that just to segue into the fact that I've been a member of this community. I believe great schools do make great communities. I've been a volunteer. I've done doodads. I've read to kids. I've coached for the Manheim Township Rec for probably 6 or 7 years. Didn't intend to start that, but I was going to take pictures of my kids. I was like, yeah, they're going to be in activities. I'm going to have a bunch of memories. First day, the coach dragged me in. Yeah, I need an assistant coach. Would you mind doing it? And I am a big proponent of, if there's a need and you can fill it, then you fill it. You don't have all the answers, but showing up is half the battle. And I wasn't the greatest coach, but I think the community appreciated it. The kids certainly appreciated it. And that's why I'm running for school board. It's service to community. I have previously served on a school board shortly. To my knowledge, I was the first minority to serve on Manheim Township School Board, and I don't like the title. I don't want to be the first Black this or that. I do, though, want the kids to have representation at all levels in the district, not just on school board, but among staff, among administrators. Because the thing that really drew me into class, besides wanting to be that presence for my son, was that the class represents the rainbow. It represents the community. It represents the country in general. It's very diverse and inclusive, and I want to continue that strong school district into the future. I'm going to stop talking now.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So now we're going to get into the question of the day. As Township has started school today, that is the official end of summer for our students. So what we want to talk about is what you did this summer and how that relates to the upcoming school board election and serving on the school board. So maybe we'll go in reverse this time since Terrence just talked. How about Joanne?
Board member, I'm going to say that I started and ended the school talking about fiscal needs within our district. Of course, in June, we passed the budget, and we just received at the last board meeting an engineer's report with system improvements that are needed, modernizations that are needed. And also the fact that with our growing population in Manheim Township, we're going to need to do something about our elementary schools. They're becoming full. And one of the things that contributes most to the excellent education our children receive here is the fact that we have always kept our classrooms small, or our class sizes small, not the classrooms themselves. And that is going to be a critical factor to look at as we decide what we're going to do, where, and how. So the board is going to be looking at a lot of mundane, not simple, but concrete kind of issues. And that's what most comes before the board. We like to hear about a lot of other things that are going on, but the concrete of what needs done, how is it funded, what else can we do? Those are the kinds of decisions the board makes. So my summer was balanced with that. But I also had an opportunity to walk through NEF a couple of days ago, because NEF is the school I'm assigned to as a board member. And so much has gone on over the last few years. Changes in education, stress on teachers, we need teachers, we're losing teachers. There's so much going on. I walked through that building and I was greeted with smiles and enthusiasm. We can't wait for the kids to get here. Oh, we're all set up. Look at this, look at that. The kids are okay. The teachers are okay. And they're going to have a really, really good year. And that just means everything to me. No matter what we've been through, no matter what the future holds, those teachers are ready to be what those kids need in those classrooms. So that's heartwarming for me. So I didn't take any big trips. I didn't do anything exciting, but I did continue in the role of school board. And so I thought I would share that.
Joanne. Sarah?
Thanks, Julie. Well, I mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. I spent most of my free time this summer knocking on doors of voters, getting to know them and getting to hear what's going on in their minds, and also reading. So that's kind of what I use summer for, is to catch up on reading and get ahead, just like I used to do in school, like read the first 3 chapters of every class you're taking before the first day of class. So I've already got all the fall books read for my neighborhood book club in anticipation of an intense campaign here in September and October. But I also heard from a lot of parents and a lot of voters that I talked to, and I had some wonderful conversations at doors about, well, what's really going on? Is it really bad and scary? Is it as bad and scary as it might be, and as it seems in Hempfield or Warwick or those poor folks in Eton that are trying to make a run at it, at serving on the school board? And I said, well, let me put it this way. If we are all paying attention, and if we are all engaged, and if we all get to the polls, we will win. And we will serve on the board, and we will make Manheim Township proud, and we will continue the tradition of excellence that Joanne has led the way. We've been watching her, Joanne. I watched on Zoom a lot more during the pandemic than when it was time to come out of the house. I came right to the board meetings because it's so important. These decisions are critical. They make the difference in our kids' lives. They make the difference in the teachers' lives. And so listening to kids and parents and teachers this summer was really what energized me and kept me moving forward to say, no, this is critical. And as Patrick was saying, it's a pivotal time. It's not just it's just more people running for school board and it won't really matter who gets on the board. It really, really, really matters. It matters to the future of the kids, the future of the books, and the future of the teachers, and the future of the superintendent.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
How about Patrick?
Thanks, Julie. I'm going to tell a story about a trip I took this summer because it was pretty exciting, and it was the trip of a lifetime. And I want to talk about it and how it, so there's a couple of different angles for me that I think connect to the work that I'm seeing in the months to come and to get on the school board. And definitely some takeaways that I took from my trip too. And first of all, I'll say, if everyone doesn't know, I'm a big proponent. There's a program put on by our national park system and the Department of Interior where fourth graders can go to national parks for free. You have a fourth grader, you get a free national park pass, and we took full advantage of that. So my family had been planning a trip for years, and we went out to Yellowstone National Park, Grand Teton National Park, Glacier National Park, and the Sawtooth National Forest over 2 weeks this summer. And I unplugged completely, in part because there was no Wi-Fi and no cell service most of the places we were going. And so it really allowed for me to find time to connect with my family in the woods, which is a very special place for us, and to take time to think about the year that had been and what we saw coming up. And some of these experiences, so I said before, my wife is a science teacher, right? Something she says all the time is science is a verb, right? The real value in getting out, getting your hands dirty, trying things and failing, right? And that was part of what I was reflecting on for myself and for my family over the course from the spring, right? I did not envision myself running for school board. This is not a path that I had for myself forever. This wasn't something that, I'd been building towards for years. This is something that came out of me speaking at a board meeting last fall when some of the incumbent board members were trying to take a measure that would have started the process of limiting the opportunities for all of our students to participate in extracurriculars and particular sports. And I went and I spoke out against that at a board meeting. And then that kind of started the ball rolling, right? I saw there fundamental issues of fairness, justice, and the character of this town. And that was what got me involved. And took those moments, and some of that, and reflected on the journey that I'd been on, pushing through the primary, where we were so glad and fortunate to have started campaigning with these 4 other Slate mates, and we built up a movement together in a way that I'm really excited to continue in this fall. But also saw, the value of getting there, right? Trying something. This is not, and doing something, right? We saw something, like Terrence said, and we wanted to get involved, and that's what I did. And then getting out there into the woods, and reflecting on that, and then getting into immersive experiences with my family was something that was really a theme for us for the summer. So that was us hiking in the mountains. That was us driving across the middle of Idaho and just having to talk to each other, right? Because there is nothing else to do for 8 hours, which is just wonderful. I cherish those moments now. But it was also staying, right? When we were at Glacier National Park, we stayed not in a hotel, not inside the park. We stayed on the Blackfoot Native American reservation there, right? And so then that was not an experience that was immediately available to my children here in Lancaster, but we were able to seek that out and put them into places where maybe they hadn't been before, where maybe they were going to be a little uncomfortable, but then take those experiences, right, and take them home. So we brought those. That is something that, again, like thinking about different perspectives of the world, different points of view, and how can we take those and build a more cultural experience for ourselves and for my family. And that's something that was really, a positive and fun experience for us too. So I'm talking a lot. I could keep talking more. I'm not going to try to share the screen to show pictures. Maybe that's on a future Zoom when I'll make you all just like, we can find a couple hours and I can show you all of our pictures from the trip. And I'm not going to do that here tonight. But it was a trip of a lifetime. It allowed us the chance to grow together, to disconnect, and then to come back refreshed and ready to run into this fall. And I'm excited to that. So I will kick it back to you, Julie. Thanks.
Sounds like a wonderful trip, Patrick. All right, I'm going to hand it off to Mark and step out for a minute while I take care of our dog.
Yes, so Julie and I are a team, and the dog, he doesn't know, he doesn't keep the time the way we do. So I'll take it from here for a moment. So this summer was interesting because it's the first summer since our two daughters were young where they both were not at home. So typically you transition from one grade to the next, you start a new school year, but this year was a bit different. So, and it was kind of a big summer of transition, and a lot of change going on with our kids and a lot of change going on in the world. We see it all around, and not all these changes are good. So at least the changes within the family here are good. So my oldest daughter graduated from college, and I was really proud of her. She got her bachelor's degree in social work, but she was not, a STEM student. And if you're coming through school and you're not a STEM student, it's not as easy as it is for our oldest daughter, who was math and science. A lot easier to get through high school as well as township. But what I'll say about the experience of their time in school is the township prepared both of them so well to be successful. All of the time that teachers who cared about Michaela getting math, getting it right, and really learning it, to see her go to college and see all that pay off, right? All the books she read, all the time that teachers and volunteers put in with reading, right? That's what school was about. And until recently, we just take for granted that will continue on, but we can't take for granted what the schools will look like. So watching her prepare and then spending the summer, so what did we do? We spent a lot of time looking at buying furniture and doing things, because she moved to Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, where she is now pursuing her master's in social work at the University of Pittsburgh. So it was a lot of work on that front, but a lot of time spent with her, and a little bit more one-on-one time, because my other daughter spent the summer at Lafayette. She got a scholarship for the summer to work in a research lab. So she was there all summer. She was home on the weekend. And so there's a lot of time spent with family. And then at the end, we always go to the beach. And this year we went with friends who were also township residents, their kids. And to see all these kids now as they're growing up, and how good they are in terms of not just good students, successful at school, but good people, right? And that just doesn't happen with the parents, right? It happens in the wider community as friends, but a lot of it happens in schools. They learn so much in schools, right? And my fear is, if I look at all this reflection that I had in the summer about how much success my kids are having, but how much of it is attributed to the administration and the teachers and the education they got at township, I want that for everyone else. We have, there's Patrick and Sarah that still have young kids through the school, Terrence whose kids are still going through. I don't want that to change. I don't want somebody to feel like they want to take away access because their limited view of something, right? Well, we're going to protect children. Well, the vast majority of children, they don't need protection from books. The last I checked, books don't jump off the shelf and gobble you up and force their words into your head. right? If the great thing about the district already and the teachers spend an inordinate amount of time choosing the books that the kids are going to read in those classrooms, right? They're not out there thinking, well, let me find the most controversial book I can throw out there, right? That's not what happened. But the great thing is, parents already have this freedom to choose. If you don't want to read a book, don't have your child read the book. Really simple. Doesn't affect me, doesn't affect Sarah, doesn't affect Patrick, right? So we're creating issues that just take away from the mission of the school. And my fear is that even if it doesn't, maybe they don't get all the way they want to go, it puts seeds in the mind of teachers. They have to look over their shoulder. They got to worry, oh, is somebody going to question what I'm doing? We don't need that. That will not deliver for our kids. So I'm really passionate when I see things like, I'm big on process improvement. I'm always looking to improve something, innovate. I hate to see processes torn down. And this slate, what's really important, if we don't get this slate elected so that we can keep that majority, or take the majority so that we can set the tone for not only maintaining, but advancing and improving what's already here, we're going to regress. And we've seen around us too much of what that already looks like, right? So for everybody who's here, I appreciate you for coming, but what's so important is that we get people out to vote, right? So everything's about action. This summer, there was a lot of action. I did a lot of things to get ready, right, for, moving, people moving. Well, we got to get ready for election day. And the way we do that is not just individually, right? We need everybody to vote. And these off-year elections, traditionally, voter turnout's pretty low. So everybody here, every member that you have in your family or friends, ask them to get out to vote. You don't have to get into some deep ideological question that can get to be, contentious even in families, but just encourage them to vote. The more people that vote, right, and particularly, I'm sure in your friend group, there are a lot of like-minded people may not even know that, as Sarah said, hey, it's a school under attack, like what's happening? Get out and vote. 5 people, ask them to get 5 people. And, I have this, I'm a math guy. I'd like there to have a really good hit rate for, hey, if we only start here with 4 or 5 people, you talk to 5, that's 25. And even if they only talk to 2 more, that's another 50. That's 75 votes that could come out of just this if you could just get out and talk to people. So I encourage you to do that. I'll get off the little soapbox now, but I would like us to make this little group powerful. And 75 votes out of this little group would be pretty darn powerful. I'll turn it over to Terrence.
All right, can you hear me? Okay, that's good. What did I do this? So this summer, for me personally, I spent a lot of time gardening, and I love to see things grow. I know you have to put some effort into it. It can be messy, and it was indeed, and it still is. But what that gave me an opportunity to do was grab my boys and bring them out into the yard with me, and we did some late mulching, and they don't know it. They didn't realize it, but it was me purposefully spending some non-plugged in time with them, especially on the eve of TJ leaving for college. So I hope we did a lot of talking. We did a lot of it was about politics, and what's going on in the country and in the neighborhood. We also spent a lot of time, like Sarah said, knocking on doors. Not enough time. I lament that, but everything's a balance in life. I look forward to knocking on more as we go forward, though. But I don't regret the time I spent with the kids. It was awesome. And let's see so we grew we harvested peaches. we harvested tomatoes and chard and bunches and bunches of flowers. But it's for me, it's an anecdote to education. You gotta sow the seeds, you gotta water them. Sometimes you put the baby plants and then they wilt under the sun. And I think that part of what our opponents are doing is taking out any possibility of sun. I think education is going to be the water, it's going to be the nutrients, it's going to be the sunlight that's going to challenge our students and help them grow stronger. They're going to follow that sun as it grows across the sky, and they're going to turn a little bit toward it, and they not even knowing what they're going to do, they're going to grow and thrive. So that's kind of, I love seeing things grow. I know it can be messy sometimes. I'm not a neat gardener, but the results are simply amazing. I think that everybody on this slate is pro teacher. Everybody is pro student, but just not pro some students, just not pro a narrow ideology. We're all espousing an inclusive, not only administration, staffing, classroom, but curriculum as well. We're not trying to, we're all humane and human, and we see students as people, not to pigeonhole them into this or that, because whether you're transgender or you're cis or bi, we all as human beings need the same things. We need love, we need nurturing, we need knowledge. We don't need to sequester the knowledge. We don't need to diminish the amount that they could obtain. Personally, I love the Socratic method. One thing I told my kids when they were old enough to understand and they were going off to school is there are certain things you need to get from school. You need to get the knowledge. School will teach you three major things. They'll teach you knowledge. They'll teach you how to be consistent, and they'll teach you how to get along with others. And those are three big things you need in whatever sphere of life you enter. I also told them that you're going to find teachers that you love, and you're going to find teachers that you do not love. But hopefully, in all your classes, you will find teachers that challenge you. Your job in return is to challenge those teachers, because that's how it works. It's not just a one-way street. You teach them, they teach you. You are respectful at all times and not disruptive, but you go there to not only learn as much as you can, but challenge your teachers and have them challenge you. So bring it back full circle, all that to say, I think there's a healthy relationship with school between me, my kids, and the administration and their teachers. So that's about my summer.
Thank you, Terrence. So I'll open it up now for, does anyone, joining us, does anyone have a question? Anything you want to ask anyone on the slate or the slate in general? Or any comment you'd want to make, anything that you think's important, that you want us to hear, what's important to you? If anyone would like to say anything, either you raise your hand or the virtual hand, or let me know. But it looks, I don't see anyone showing up. Does anyone from the slate, do you have any parting words? Nikki, you have anything you want to say? Does anyone have anything they would like to?
Just one thing I wanted to tack on to something you said, Mark. You were talking about the importance of making sure everyone knows there's an election and making sure everyone knows how important it is to vote. I learned from current board members Nikki and Joanne that in a very recent election in the past several years, there was a seat decided by 41 votes. And that little factoid keeps me on my toes and thinking of how we can, I think of the book Horton Hears a Who, how we can let every who in Whoville know that they have to do their part. So those 41 votes, just, they keep me up at night a little bit.
I was going to ask of the audience joining us, if there was something in particular that brought you to the meet and greet tonight, anything that you were looking for, or a particular interest that you had in joining us tonight.
So while you think of that question, Nikki had her hand raised, so I'll let Nikki speak, and anyone after that who has answer to what Joanne said, that would be great.
No, I just wanted to say thanks for doing this community Zoom, and I know the 5 of you very well, and I would be honored to serve on the school board with you. I know your heart is in it. You are kid focused and public education focused. So I appreciate you all stepping up to run for this position. I look forward to serving with you.
Thank you, Nikki. From Joanne's question, does anyone want to answer? There. Okay, so Renee said fair treatment for all students and keeping all books in our library. Well, I think we could all agree with that. All is all. There's no all, but all is all. And from access for students and for books in the library. Thank you for sharing that, Renee. Anyone?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we're for all books. We're not for taking any out of the library. If any, I think we probably all agree we need more. At any rate, knowledge is not bad. You can take it in and do positive and negative things with it, but it's not bad. And what we need are critical thinking kids. They're kids that can take those ideas, extract from them the good and necessary, and implement solutions for our future that are going to work going deeper into our future. We need smart kids. We need kids that don't just do what they're told, but can take the amalgam of knowledge and information that we present them with and make good choices for not only themselves, but for us. I mean, some of this mess is our making, and we're relying on them to be smart enough to not make the exact same mistakes that we made, and improve upon the things that we did right. So, books.
Thank you, Terrence. And Laura mentioned that she just wanted to come and see and hear the candidates, and that's really what we wanted to do. So I'm glad we were able to do that, and we want to do more of this. But Laura also asked a question, and Joanne, you or Nikki might want to answer this, which is, this process for families, when a student doesn't want to read a book, what is, just a little bit about that process, and how often does that process get used?
About how often, but the process itself would be to go to the teacher with your request. I remember years ago making an assignment, not thinking, you don't realize it's going to be controversial, and the pastor and his wife came in, and could I please allow their child to do something other than what I had assigned. We were reading parts of The Hobbit, and I had them take the different people in The Hobbit, and she had somehow gotten an ogre, and they didn't want her to have an ogre. And they're giving me the impression, like, what is going to happen when I ask this of the teacher? And I went, oh my heavens, what would she like to do? Would she like to just say how she felt when she read it? I mean, we just had the whole conversation, and it always goes that way. Go to the teacher. I have questions about this book. I've read excerpts, whatever it is, but there's a process. Go to the teacher. If it's the book itself, if it's not just the assignment, there's a process through the library. There's a whole committee across the administration and teachers. They'll read the book, they'll discuss the book, they'll get back to you on the basis of its literary reason for being in the library. If there's something about the writing, not just the content of the story. They're just, there's no end. There's always a way to say, I don't want my child reading such and such, or, could they just bypass this assignment? There's always a way. Just go to the teacher. And it won't be confrontational. Just go to the teacher and say, I need to talk to you about the book, and it'll happen.
Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, so the great thing about that process, and it's been talked a lot about in the school board meetings over, the past months, and it's gotten reiterated many times. But parents really have a lot, as Joanne said, it's not contentious. It's, you have the option, and it doesn't affect other students. But it really comes, and I'm gonna, Stephanie asked a good question, and I'll repeat it here and throw it out to the slate, because I think these things are all tied together. Like, how do you maintain a focus on the needs of the district while some parents are interested in only talking about these bands? And I'll just say one thing before I throw it out to the group. That's really why I think we're all aligned on the talk about the books takes away from the focus, and we're all passionate about that, because it is about, we want to protect the needs of the district. So I'll throw it out. Who wants to jump in first? Patrick?
I'm happy to go. Yeah, thanks, Mark. And I think, again, thank you both Stephanie and Laura for raising those issues. And I think that's, like Mark said, it's core to why we're running, and core to this moment in time, right? Because what I've learned over campaigning over the past number of months and attending board meetings and talking to teachers and talking to administrators is that there is a process, like Mark said, that's been in place for a long time. And what feels different now is that there is a difference between genuine concern about what their people's children are seeing or reading or experiencing at school, and there's a difference between that, which can be handled, like how Joanne mentioned, through a conversation with the teacher. And if that needs to get escalated to a principal, to then be escalated to a principal, there's a procedure in place that's been in place for some time to handle those sorts of genuine and real concerns that families have, right? But what the moment that we're in now does not feel like this is that, right? There's a political reactionary attempt to change the way our public schools are being run, right? To remake public schools not to be reflective of the public, but to be reflective of a narrow ideology that is not accepting, right? And that it's important to call that what it is. There's a difference, because what I see is that the folks who are these reactionaries are trying to wrap themselves up in the concerns of genuine parents who want to see their children do well at school. That is not what this is, right? There is a group, I already said it before, called Moms for Liberty. If you haven't seen it, read the news. They're in the news all over the place. And two of our opponents are members of Moms for Liberty. They call themselves Happy Warriors, right? This is not about maintaining a safe school district. This is about tearing down a school district and building it in their own image. And that means war against students who don't look the way that they think they should look, or students who don't think that the way they think they should think, right? It's important to name that openly and repeatedly so that everyone can understand what's at stake in November, right? This is serious. They're organized, and it demands a response to say that is not acceptable in Manheim Township. That is not consistent with public education. That's not who we are. That's not what we're about. That's not what we want for our kids. That's not what I want for my children. And so that's really what's happening here. And it's important to confront these things head on.
I also just want to say that tagging onto that there's a reason that I mentioned Hempfield and Warwick and E-Town. And there's a reason that this isn't a coincidence that this seems to be happening in all these school districts near us. What is happening is folks are funding and infiltrating groups and then putting up candidates to say, in essence, is there soft ground here for this kind of ideology? And we just have to say no, move on. don't come here. This is not what we want for our community and for our kids and for our teachers and for our schools. So the answer just has to be no, there is not soft ground here. Move on.
Yeah, and just to kind of tie this back to Laura's question as well, and what Patrick said and what Sarah just said, this really, a lot of the book banning things now that are going on, they're not really, they're under the guise of, hey, I want to protect students, I can't, or I'm concerned about students, but it's really about pushing an ideology and pushing the administration and diverting. So it's taking away from that focus. So just Laura on that process, but the way Joanne explained the example of how it comes down into the specific, but the process is pretty simple. Any parent, they can go to the librarian, have their child's name on a list of certain books that they don't want the child to read. If there are books on the list that the teacher has, they go to the teacher and just say, hey, I'd rather not have my children read these books, right? So it's very simple. It just works for everyone. And so when you see that, that when somebody's upset about a book, when they have all the processes in place to protect their child from that book, they're not, and as Patrick said, they're on a very narrow ideology, very minority opinion, that they're not there for all these other kids. They're there to make some broader point, some political point, and that's not what the school board is meant to be. So we need to keep the majority so we can make sure we don't allow the focus to get lost. Joanne.
No, I was just going to say on the point you were making, not what the school board is for. The original question was, how do we stay focused? And the administration will keep us focused on what our teachers need. Tom will keep us focused on what the buildings need. We as school directors receive information, a lot of information at the work sessions, and then process that, ask our questions, and come back and vote at the voting meeting. That keeps us focused on the real issues that lead to the excellent education that we get here in Manheim Township. They came and they said, we need to increase bus driver wages so that we can have enough bus drivers. They said, we need to have more support people. We need additional school psychologists. We need additional special ed teachers. And they come and they give us a full accounting. They've done all the work. They've thought it through. They bring us the budget for it. That's how we stay focused, because they keep us there. What we need to do, as you're saying, Mark, if we're not in the majority, if the majority wants to bring other issues instead, then you see how we begin to break down and lose our focus. So the original question about focus, that is what school board does.
Sarah, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. What does when I'm thinking about what the district needs and focusing on what the district needs, do we need books to be banned? No, we don't need books to be banned. We have processes, as Joanne, as everyone has spoken about, whereby a parent can just say, nope, not for my kid, inform the teacher, and that's the end of it. So as far as getting books banned from the library, that has to deal with a small segment of the community trying to impose its philosophy on the entire community, and that's what none of us really stand for. It's fine if you tell your kids you don't want to read this, you tell them you don't want them to read certain books, you tell the teachers, and for the most part that solves the problems of that family. We don't want those parents to be solving imaginary problems for other people's families. We don't want the minority controlling the majority. We are truly for parents' rights, in that this parent can't tell that parent what their kid should and should not read. We also don't want those parents, through book bannings, telling the teachers what they can access to deliver to the students. Think of that world, right? A world that's so narrowly focused that you only have certain vetted books by that minority in a library. What is that world going to leave out. It's going to leave out people that look like me. It's going to leave out trans people, certainly. It's going to leave out gay people. And I feel like we're kind of just having the same arguments on a revolving one. 50 years ago, it was Black people. 30, 40 years ago, it was gay. We're now in the transgender era, and we keep having a vocal minority of people in the country and in certain communities picking on the most vulnerable in our communities. And that's what we don't like. I think this is like a justice-oriented slate. So we're not trying to stomp on anybody's rights. Especially not those parents who want to exempt their kids from reading certain books. We just don't want them to exempt our kids to take those same books away from our kids. And I think that's the foundation. As far as how we keep focus, keep it simple, stupid. It's about the kids. It's about fiscal responsibility. It's about maintaining our facilities. It's about adhering to Title IX. It's about making sure that daughter of a parent, that daughter has the same access as a son, and that everything is equal. The brown kid has the same access as the white kid or the yellow kid. That we have as much equality as we can put into the school system as possible.
Thank you, Terrence, and thank you, everyone. We packed a lot in the 58 minutes. I really appreciate everyone coming, and I really appreciate the questions. This is about us being here for you so that you understand and you're informed what's at stake. So when you go to vote, whether you're voting on a mail-in ballot or voting live, that you know as much about us as you can know and what we stand for and why we're running. So as I said, I'll end on the note: go out and talk to your family, friends, and get out the vote, as many people as you can. So with that, we plan to do this every Tuesday. And so
we have a Facebook page if you have questions in between and you want to interact with us.
And that Facebook page will also be the place where you find the links for these get-togethers as well. So thank you for that, Sarah.
What's our Facebook page called, Mark?
It's the Support Empty Schools. So go check it out. And there, Joanne carries a Facebook page on her button everywhere she goes. So thank you all.
There you go.
You all have a good evening. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.